This is the third time in 2 weeks that a legendary figure within the anime industry has called out the anime industry. Earlier this month, we had Toei Animators and even Tatsuya, the anime director at Toei Animation who directed Dragon Ball Super Broly, talking about why anime is popular and that anime needs to remain Japanese and focus on the Japanese audience for it can continue being popular. Then we had Frieren's anime director calling out certain trends and also overseas fans because of their bias for battle shonen like JJK, Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, and then now we have this, the anime studio founder at PA Works talking about the increase of anime production and the worrying crisis that's building and how a lot of studios nowadays can no longer make anime original works because of how the industry is jam-packed of different projects that are just adaptations of shows to probably chase popular trends. When you have 3 different anime studios, different animators, different directors, and different anime they work on, pretty much saying kind of similar things from different perspectives, this is a canary in a coal mine. This is a red flag that a lot of people need to be talking about. Now, the warning signs have been there for a while, but the fact that we've had this happen in just 2 weeks is definitely something that people need to be taking notice of. So let's see what the anime founder of PA Works had to say about this situation. The founder of the major anime studio PA Works, Kenji Horikawa, feels that the large number of anime productions may be dimming creators' desire to make original anime. In an interview with Real Sound ahead of the release of Fushigi, Alice in Wonderland anime adaptation, Horikawa said regarding the challenges of creating original works. It's certainly true that it's difficult to create original works these days. Anime production costs are rising rapidly. So from an investor's perspective, original works naturally carry a higher risk, and I can understand that to some extent. Obviously, since he's like an anime studio founder, he would understand investors and risk of creating something that might not net a lot of profit. On the other hand, with the sheer volume of works becoming overwhelming, leading to a sense of exhaustion from trying to keep up with demand, I feel like that sudden initial impulse of this is what we want to create is weakening. With original works, the story, worldview, and characters are all created by the creators themselves, so the production effort is high. The important thing is whether there's something worth going through that effort to create. But if the current situation continues, I feel a sense of crisis that even if we all want to, we might forget how to make an original work. PA Works has participated in numerous popular anime originals such as Angel Beats, Shirobako, Charlotte, Nagi, and the list basically goes on, and there's quite a few other, anime originals that are not even mentioned here. The point of the matter is that this article and this interview from the anime founder of PA Works talks about anime originals from a very special place in his heart. And he advocates for the continuation of being able to create anime original works, but obviously with the way the industry is going and how production is ramping up with a lot of different studios and anime is more in demand than it ever has been, obviously the creative freedom of creating originals within a studio isn't as viable as, say, something like Soul Leveling, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Chainsaw Man. And you're probably wondering, why? Well, he's obviously a businessman, and he even outlines in this interview that he understands to some extent, when it comes to investors and all that, and the high risk of making anime originals, it's more lucrative potentially to play it safe and create products that obviously will get a fan base quickly, instead of doing something that might be super unique, very different, that might make people not even interested in the first place. And so this is why you see a lot of series that legitimately, at least in the last 5 years, that have really blown up in popularity, follow a certain dedicated trend that is very popular to a wide audience. I've already mentioned the names, so I don't think I need to re-say all of them again. The point is that this kind of directly echoes what we've already been seeing in the previous articles I showed. For instance, to the Frieren director talking about it, to even Toei Animation talking about it as well, even though they're responsible for Dragon Ball Super. They all outline in their own different ways that anime is popular. Production cost and stuff is getting a lot higher. Demand for anime is higher. But because of how high the demand is, how production is getting higher and more extreme, it's causing problems. It's causing staff and studio to work on the next project to the next project. There's no breathing in between whatsoever. And because of how long these projects take to come out, it's draining these studios. It's hurting these studios. And it's also causing a lot of animators not to continue working as well, because that gets all into the other issue of overwork to lack of pay and everything in between that I've already covered on this channel for years at this point. The point of the matter is, the biggest takeaway from this situation is that anime is fundamentally changing. And it's clear that as more and more companies get invested and interested in the anime pie, there's going to be those that want to make anime make as much money as possible, which is fine for a company wanting to do, but it's going to lead to a situation that we're currently experiencing within Hollywood. And let me outline this. I'm not going to act like I know all the intricacies of modern Hollywood and everything that goes on. But there is one thing that is very surface level that I feel like a lot of people understand, and that is production cost of a lot of different movies in Hollywood has risen astronomically high, and it's unacceptable. It has become so ridiculous, in fact, that these companies can no longer keep up. They're not making enough money to be able to continue outputting those type of movies that are like 400 to 500 to 600 million dollar budgets. And anime budgets obviously aren't to the same level as that, but obviously, anime is still growing. It is a growing piece of media and entertainment that is reaching new levels that honestly has never been seen before. And I think that what's going on here, it's the beginning of what Hollywood is going through, or has been going through for a very long time, and that is, with more investors investing in anime, they're going to talk with these studios, these companies, to play it safe to make as much money as possible, which is why I think the founder here is complaining that obviously he understands from an investor perspective, but this means that it limits the creation ability of making anime originals that are very high-risk products. There's a reason like why in the gaming space you have gaming companies, like these big AAA companies, they don't make very risky games anymore. And that's the reason why, like, you have AA or just indie developers that come out of nowhere with a very different and unique random game, because obviously you hear about these indie games coming out of nowhere all the time, but the point is that there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of indie games out there that are probably really good, but never really breach into a wide audience or even get recognition or noticed. And that's basically the point here, is that when you present a product, there's always a risk. Even if it's a great product, let's just hypothetically say it's a 10 out of 10 product that is just game-changing or landscape-changing of the entire genre, the point is if it doesn't get noticed and it's not, nobody buys it, then obviously it's a risk and you just straight up lose money. And so why would a company want to take these type of risk, high risk, when they can play it safe and just coast, float off, and make a lot of money? And it's very clear, just from what we have seen as of late in the last 5 years, that anime really can just put pretty colors, pretty art and animation with a little bit of fighting, and it's going to explode in popularity. I've already talked about the names. And now, I'm not saying that's the only thing that those series have to offer. I'm just saying that it's very clear that if they do stuff like that, they can get a pretty big audience. There is definitely a cultural shift going on with anime. I think a lot of people are starting to see it, especially these industry veterans, these directors, these animators, these studio founders. They're seeing the cultural shift within anime, and that it's now being geared towards a wide variety of people, a wide scope of an audience, like just for everyone, instead of focusing on the actual core Japanese audience. Now, there is a double-edged blade to this situation. Obviously, there is oftentimes I've seen within manga that there is manga that gets straight up canceled that is legitimately incredible, and I think a majority of the world thinks it's incredible, but it's not popular in Japan, and that series winds up getting axed, or canceled in this case. And I've seen this happen a lot. And the reason why that happens is because obviously, like Shonen Jump and these different magazines, they only care about the Japanese audience. And like I said, this is a good and a bad thing, a double-edged sword. This means that the series and the marketing is only for the Japanese, and it stays the main kind of content that why we even like manga and anime to begin with. For instance, manga and anime stays Japanese. But if you don't listen to the other side, that means you're going to have stories that legitimately have a lot of potential just collapse into the dirt and ground and never see the light of day. So yeah, you can see the good and the bad of the situation. But I feel like, anime and manga staying Japanese is better than trying to make it for the entirety of the world. And we have definitely seen a lot of these different companies that make, let's say, cartoons, for instance, trying to replicate the anime style. They're trying to kind of chase after the coattails of anime and why it's popular as of late, because obviously it makes a lot of money. And I feel like a lot of these investors and stuff that don't really care about the culture is just jumping in because there's easy money to make. So yeah, I just, this entire situation's fascinating. It's a canary in a coal mine. I mean, there's another article that also kind of talks about, how anime companies are losing money despite, obviously, industry revenue being at an all-time high. I might have to cover this article separately, because it actually kind of gets into the big point here of what I'm discussing in this video about these individual articles when it comes to cash flow and production costs and stuff like that. But to kind of do a brief summary to this article here, which I'll link in the description if you're interested in it, more or less, the industry's production costs are just getting higher. Obviously echoing Hollywood. So you can kind of see what's going on here. It's becoming the exact same issue that plagues Hollywood. Not a good sign. Especially from what we've seen already, that Kadokawa's already mentioned multiple times that they're wanting to ramp up production cost, or production in general, a lot higher. And when you have multiple studios and staff and all that talking about how it's already at a breaking point, I feel like the anime bubble is going to burst. It's going to break and explode probably sometime in the future. I don't know if it'll happen this year, might not even happen next year. But I feel like you can only have this much demand for anime until the entire system collapses. There is a reason why there's a lot of freelancers now within the anime industry, why there's a lot of people around the world, and why these different anime studios even hire people from Twitter to animate certain scenes or episodes. And the reason why they're doing this is because these companies, these studios, are bleeding their animators dry. They're bleeding employees. Because with the rampant overworking to the very low or bad pay that has been outlined for decades at this point, obviously people are not going to want to be animators anymore in Japan. People are not going to want to do jobs like that. And so you have people desperate to get their start into anime, or they really appreciate anime. They're being hired as freelancers for these companies and probably being paid even lower than maybe regular animators in Japan. Obviously, I'm not an animator, so I can't confirm that. I can only confirm a few things from what certain animators I've talked with over the years have told me, and sometimes freelancers do get paid relatively low in comparison to, like, maybe even just straight up animators for a certain studio. So, to get into the main point here, there's a lot of issues that's plaguing the anime industry, but the anime industry in general is echoing the warning signs of Hollywood, where you have investors tampering with certain projects, forcing studios to not do risky anime or series anymore, not create new works that really stand the test of time. Like Neon Genesis Eva is an anime original work. In this day and age, would something like that be greenlit? Would something like that be allowed to be made because of just the trend that we're seeing with certain action series or battle shown and all that? Would something like that, would that have been allowed to be created? Would Kill la Kill, that's an anime original, would that have been allowed to be created? Would Pantheon Stalking, Season 1, would that have been allowed to be greenlit? There's a lot of things here that are playing a big weight into the conversation, and I feel very bad for everyone that's involved in the industry. And I feel like, you know, it's going to probably get a lot worse before it gets any better. Hell, it might not ever get any better. I mean, let's still look at Hollywood. It's still trying to figure out what's going on with itself and what's going on with different movies and TV shows and all that. So, it's sad to see a medium, like a form of media that I love, kind of going that route. It is developing into that route. When you have all these different directors and animators and stuff speaking out like this, you should listen. It is a warning sign. It's a canary. And that canary is obviously starting to choke. It's choking on some very toxic gases. And it's only a matter of time until, like, the whole bubble just... So, yeah. I'll leave it at that, though. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, leave a like on this video, and leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.